In other words, ladies and gentlemen, you have to look at the fact that about 65% of the so-called better jobs in New York City are held by white folk. And yet, at the same time, the number of jobs that are available to both whites and blacks or any other group of people in New York City are shrinking. So New York City is faced with a dilemma. It's faced with the dilemma that says, if we educate a large number of people, where will we have the jobs for these people? And if you are one of those educated people, you've gone through 12 years of school, then gone through 4 more years of college education and so forth, and when you get out you find that there are no jobs, you're going to find yourself in quite a temper. You're going to raise quite a bit of hell. You're going to protest. You're going to create disturbances. So then, in order to block these disturbances from occurring, it is in the city's interest that a large number of people drop out of school. So that when they drop out of school, they can now make the excuse that you're not working because you didn't finish school. Of course, you don't ask the question, would you really have had a job if I finished? But since we accept the idea that you have to finish school and have an education to work, as soon as one says, well, if you had finished, you would have been working, we're willing to then let it go at that. In other words, you can ask the question the other way. What would happen if we educated 80, 90, or 95% of black students, of Latino students, who are the majority of the New York City population now, if we educated them in such a way that they could score as well or outscore white folk? Ultimately then, that would mean that we as people would replace white folk in the New York City occupational structure. At this point, you would probably see some racism in this town that you thought did not exist. It would be at this point that blatant racism would rise again, to the point as it happened in the South, where people would say, well, I don't really care what kind of educational background you have and what kind of qualifications you have. This is a white man's job, and this is for white folks first. But you see, we don't have to get to that nasty scenario because we drop out before we what? Get there. So it saves the city and it saves the nation some very nasty racial confrontations. That is one of the reasons I argue then that this city and this nation, as much as it talks about preventing dropouts, as much as it talks about improving the educational quality of our children and of our people, never seems to be able to do anything about it. Never seems to be able to change